Your First Amendment rights include the freedom of religion and the freedom of speech and the press. Freedom of expression. This means the government cannot establish a religion. There is no official religion of the United States. They cannot prohibit you from worshiping. If you want to go to church, you can. If you don't have to. The government can't tell you what to do on that one. So we've all heard of the idea of separation of church and state, but they're really not completely separate. For example, churches don't pay taxes. We do have religious personnel in our armed forces. Every branch has chaplains in them. Government meetings often open with prayer, although they tend to be non-specific and non-denominational, but they can open with prayer. Our national anthem, our Pledge of Allegiance, our money, they all have the word God on them. We also allow for religious education. So let's talk about religion and education. You can be released from school for religious education. If you need to take Hebrew classes or CCD classes or a different kind of religious education, public schools have to let you out for that. Prayer in the Bible. Schools cannot sponsor a religious activity. We cannot say, okay, stand up, let's have a prayer. However, you as a student, you are welcome to pray. You are welcome to read the Bible. Teachers can require students to study the Bible in literary or historical context. Having trouble speaking today. When I taught world history, it's very difficult to teach that without bringing in the rise of Christianity or the rise of Islam or the persecution of Jews. And that all is part of teaching the Bible. Student religious groups, they can meet like any other organization. At Viera, we have the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Perfectly fine. The topic of evolution is taught in public schools. Okay, aid to parochial schools. Parochial schools are schools that are tied to a church. For example, you guys might be familiar with Ascension or St. Mary's. Those are parochial schools. Now, federal aid is allowed, but it's a little controversial. So there was the creation of something called the Lemon Test. It's named after a person, not the fruit. So what it says is that the aid must be clearly secular, meaning it has no religious bearing whatsoever. They can be used to pay for desks, but not for religious textbooks. Okay, the effect must neither advance nor inhibit religion. So it's got to be very religious neutral. Again, desks is a perfectly good example. It must avoid excessive entanglement of government with religion. Just kind of what it sounds like. So some things that can be used for is standardized tests. My juniors, you guys, God, it seems like forever ago, took the SAT. Well, in private schools, they do the same thing, and federal aid can be used to help those schools pay for that test. It cannot be used to pay the salary of religious school teachers. It can be used, however, to pay for sex ed classes. And states are allowed to give parents a deduction on their state income tax for the amount of tuition they pay for private school, religious private school. And federal money can be used for school vouchers that go to private schools. Okay, other Establishment Clause cases. Seasonal display, we're coming up on Easter. The rule is that a seasonal display cannot endorse only one religion if it is on government property. If you're a private business, you can do whatever you want. If you're a private house, you can do whatever you want. But if you're a government agency, it must be, you can't just do one religion. Also, a lot of things that we think of as seasonal displays actually are secular. There is no religion in Santa Claus. There is no religion in the Easter Bunny. Those are perfectly fine things to display. Okay, chaplains. Again, legislation can open with a prayer. And they do. Okay, your freedom to practice religion. Your freedom to practice religion is not absolute. You cannot break the law. For example, Some Mormon sects, kind of the ultra out there ones, still practice polygamy. Polygamy is having more than one spouse. That is illegal in the United States, and so technically it is illegal in that religion as well. I don't care if you call yourself a Rastafarian. If smoking marijuana is illegal in your state, you cannot claim religious exemption for it. Some other limits on free exercise. Some school districts require that all children who want to enter public school must have certain vaccinations. It doesn't matter what your religion is. If you want to attend public school, you got to get your kid vaccinated. Again, criminal activities, you can't break the law practicing your religion. Weird story for you guys. When I was in high school, I stayed with a very, very wealthy Cuban family in Miami to see the Pope, speaking of religion. And their gardener was Haitian, and he wanted to make an animal sacrifice. So he was going to kill a goat. The goat didn't really want to be killed, so the goat threw a fit, broke through the garden shed, started running loose. One of the craziest things I've ever been involved in. The gardener actually ended up getting arrested for animal cruelty because even though he was saying it was part of his religion to sacrifice the goat, it was illegal. You have to have a permit for a parade. I know in Melbourne they do the Bible on parade every year. There's also a big Hanukkah parade every year. You still got to get a permit for those. Places where your free exercise has been upheld. If you are Amish, you don't attend school after 8th grade, and that's perfectly fine. I have a friend of mine who was raised Mennonite, and Mennonite is it's like Amish light. They can use some technology. For instance, they could ride bicycles and stuff. And his dad has nothing beyond an 8th grade education. Now, my friend does have beyond an 8th grade education. In fact, he's a nuclear physicist, which, obviously a little further than 8th grade. But the reason why is that you start learning a trade after 8th grade. Or girls, you learn how to be a housewife. If you are a religious minister, you're welcome to hold public office. Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, actually, nobody has to salute the flag. But Jehovah's Witnesses, this has been specifically upheld by the Supreme Court, cannot be made fun of, asked to do anything when it comes to saluting the flag. So there's your basics on your freedom of religion. Now go to open up your Google Doc, answer those questions, and define the vocab terms. Have a good day.